Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Brittany Hayles and this is Hayles Consulting, a business dedicated to helping you take ownership of your career. Today we're actually going to be switching it up a bit because I'm starting a podcast. And for now the podcast is going to sit right here on YouTube until I figure out how to put them on podcast platforms. So until then, you can watch the podcast here. But on this podcast, I'm going to be talking about interesting topics that I see related to career, everything related to career, whether it's about interviews or career news, whatever it may be, I'm gonna talk about it here. So if I see a topic come up, or even if you see a career topic that you love my opinion on, feel free to send it to me because I'm gonna be talking about them here on the podcast. I'm also from time to time gonna be interviewing people, talking to them about their careers. Maybe we'll just talk about topics and they can be my co-host. There's just gonna be a lot going on this podcast, but I wanted to create a new avenue for me to just speak open-mindedly without scripting out what I'm gonna say in a way that really allows me to expand my ideas and share my ideas and opinions and thoughts with you all in a manner that isn't as scripted. So the podcast name is actually called Learn Good. And at first glance, you're probably thinking that this podcast is going to be about learning good things in relation to your career or life in general, but it's actually not. Learn Good is a play on word of the word walk good, which is a Jamaican patois phrase. And as you guys may or may not know, I'm of Jamaican descent. So for me, it was really dope to be able to kind of bring my culture into the podcast. So it's called Learn Good, and I'll break down exactly why it's called that. So walk good in Jamaican patois is it's like a farewell, basically, another way of saying goodbye or good journey, whatever it may be. It's a way of saying as we part ways and when we part ways, may you go out into the world and be safe, have good fortune, may nothing but great things happen to you. Walk good. So my play on of that phrase is learn good. So as you finish listening to this podcast, either on a podcast platform or you finish watching it on YouTube, when we part ways, may you learn something new. May you be inspired. May you just walk out into the world and have great fortune from just exposing yourself to this podcast. So in the first episode of this podcast, I'm actually going to be talking about this little phrase that's been floating around that goes a little something like, I don't dream of labor, or I don't got a dream job because I don't dream of labor. And I love that. I love this movement. I love how progressive it is, but it's sad because almost nothing is coming from it. So I'm going to talk about why that's a problem and what you can actually do to fix it. And also just my opinions on the phrase and what I think should be coming from it. And at the end, stay tuned because I am going to be giving you guys a little bit of homework to better your career. So if you want some free career coaching, stay tuned at the end. As I said before, I will eventually get this on all podcast platforms, but until then, just subscribe down below. Hit that subscribe button so that you can be notified every single time a new episode drops. Let's get started. So as I'm sure you already know, you've seen it before, if not on Twitter, on Instagram, there are a million posts, even YouTube videos floating around of people talking about not dreaming of labor, having a dream job. They don't want to work. Count me out of that. And I've been seeing it recently more and more on YouTube as well. And as a career coach, I'm naturally, I gotta talk about this. People are I don't dream of labor. I don't have a dream job. Because before, that was a number one question. People used to ask you all the time, what is your dream job? What do you want to do? What are you aspiring for? Now people are shifting to this place of, I'm not trying to work. So I think it was really interesting and I'm I gotta do a little video on this. And I want to make one thing very clear. Because a lot of y'all like to do the Twitter fingers in the comments before you even watch the whole video. I see it all the time. I've been on so many YouTube videos where people will literally complain about something and oh, you said this, and the person never said that. Or they clarified it and made it very clear that they don't believe that, right? So I need y'all to I'm not even gonna give you the time to watch, I'm gonna say it from the beginning so that you completely understand. And I encourage you to watch the entire video so you can get all my opinions. I don't dream of labor either. I used to have a dream job. Now I don't have one. I aspire in my lifetime to retire in my 40s. That is my dream. The idea of working into my 60s or 70s is literally makes me want to scream. And I realized that pretty early in my career. I think with my first job, I was so y'all want me to do this for the next Absolutely not. So I want to make that very clear. Because based on the title alone, you guys may be watching this like, oh, she's about to say, you know, these people are crazy, like, you gotta work, whatever. I agree. I feel the same way. So my problem isn't with the idea or the movement or the phrase. I do have two problems with the movement and the phrase. So my first problem with the movement and the phrase is that people will repost it, reshare it, talk about it, and then majority of people are gonna do nothing about it, like nothing. Do you think, like, are you not doing something about it because you don't want to, or is it something that you actually truly do want? Like, do you genuinely not dream of labor and you just don't think it's attainable, or you don't know how to get there? I'm like, I don't think people understand how much control we have over our careers and our lives. Like, if you truly, genuinely don't dream of labor, you don't have to. Like, you can retire early. People are doing it every day. The problem is we're making it seem not feasible because there isn't a lot of representation of it. But it's real, it's happening. I know at least 10 people who were like, goodbye, and live comfortably doing it. So that's my first problem with it, is again, people are resharing it and reposting it and like literally doing nothing about it. So my second problem with the like I dream of labor movement isn't actually the people who are saying I don't dream of labor, it's the people going against them. And if you're one of these people, we can go back and forth in the comments. Like, I actually want to genuinely hear your opinion, because I see people in the comments of these posts, like there's the people that are like, yeah, me either, like I'm tired of working, like I cannot believe I have to do this for the rest of my life. And then there's the other people who are like, girl, be real with yourself, like it's unrealistic, or guy, it's unrealistic to retire anytime before your 60s, like the average person retires before their 60s, like that's a problem for me. Like the other side of the argument, the people that are just basically like, y'all are being unrealistic, like work is work, do what you gotta do, put in your time, like it is what it is, that's life. Because again, as a career coach, I'm like, that's not true. I have so many videos on my channel and even on all of my social medias that are just like, you don't have to hate your job, or you don't have to not like your job. I'm upset with those people. I think we've gotten to a place as a people where it's like, we are so obsessed with working. It's actually sad, especially here in America. Like the idea of vacation time or time for yourself is like unfathomable. Working nonstop is a sign of like, it's like a badge of honor. If you're not working, you're essentially lazy. And it's like, I'm not understanding. It's just not the life that I want to live, personally. Like, we have literally gotten to a place where we are so obsessed with working that people can't fathom the thought of retiring early, or people are starting to associate the idea of not working with being lazy, even if you are still creating an income passively, which is crazy. Because it's like, if somebody's still making money, but they're not working because they've created passive income for themselves, how are they lazy? So that's my other problem with the movement. It's not necessarily people that believe in it, it's people going against it. So I want to talk about this topic because I'm so happy to see that we as a society are moving into a place where it's like, you don't have to grind, you don't gotta work 24/7, you don't have to work until you literally are in the grave. Like, that is not the aspiration for a lot of people anymore, whereas in the previous generation, like that's what you had to do. There was no other choice. Like, people are valuing this idea of taking a salary cut to enjoy life more. Now, as I said before, I am a proud member of I Don't Dream of Labor Incorporated, right? But I wanna make one thing very clear. I am sitting in the building of I Don't Dream of Labor Incorporated, while a lot of people are sitting in the parking lot outside of the building. Now, I say that they're sitting in the parking lot and I'm sitting in the building because I have created a plan and I'm actively working towards a plan of when I'm finna stop laboring. Whereas the people in the parking lot, they have this idea of like, yeah, I'm here, I'm at the building, I'm ready to go, but there's no plan, there's no action, there's no when, there's no how. And as I stated earlier in the video, that makes me upset as a career coach, because it's like, if this is what you really want, go after it. Make that plan for yourself. How are you gonna turn that into like an idea to an actual action plan? So when I say you don't dream of labor, but labor is dreaming of you, this is what I mean. That's what I mean by the title of this video. You don't dream of labor, but labor is dreaming of you. Because labor, companies, executives, VPs, hiring managers, recruiters thrive off of people like you because you have zero plan on how and when you're going to stop working. So they are literally feeding off of you, like they love you because you may have the idea of wanting to stop working, but no intention behind it. So that is just the reality of your life, is that like labor is a continuous thing and may not stop before you want it to, because there's no plan behind it. Now I'm about to go into my inspirational preachy mode here because I genuinely think that's what I was put on the earth to do, but it's like, I don't think people truly understand how much control they have over their lives and their career. I totally get there are so many circumstances that make some people's lives and situations a lot easier than others. I was raised by a single mother. That's not easy. There's a lot of career blocks that are put in place when you're a single mom, but there's a lot of help out there for individuals like that. I understand that somebody that has what's considered to be a perfect life, they live in a two-parent home, they have, if they needed to move back home, they could. Like, those are two different living situations, and where they grow and how quickly they progress in their career are different. However, these two people, even though their situations are different, they both have something in common, which is control. And that is what my entire business is about, like taking ownership and control of your career because it's yours. So there are actions you could put into place today. You could come up with a 30-day plan today for yourself that could set you up with retiring by 50. At some point in my life, I want to live in another country and just wake up every day on the beach and do nothing and still make money. Like, all of that is realistic and feasible, but it's like, how are you going to get there? And that's what taking ownership looks like. That's what taking control looks like. How are you gonna stop laboring? When and how? And the other thing that's killing me, there are certain steps that you can easily take that you're not taking that would put you in a place to be like, yo, I'm gonna stop laboring in the next 10 years. It's not adding up for me. It's not, you know? Like, how you don't dream of labor when you're too afraid to ask for a raise? Like, when you are continuously going from one minimum wage job to the other, knowing very well that you have the skill set to apply to a higher paying job. You have the expertise. You have everything the job description is asking for, but you're too afraid to do it. You have to put yourself in a place where it's like you're making money in your sleep. If not the exact same of when you were working, at least pretty close to, if not more. People create ebooks, they create online courses. Like, there's so many things that you can do for passive income. When you think about it, it's like, what can you create or invest in today that requires a little to no work? And when I say little, I mean every once in a while you have to check on the thing, and you don't have to check on it very often, and it's not gonna explode and like you're gonna lose all your money. If you truly and thoroughly don't dream of labor like myself, you have to create passive income. As I said earlier in the video, I did see people in the comments like literally starting wars, and people like, yo, you not dreaming of labor is unrealistic. I would love to know. If you feel confident enough to comment down below, please do so. Like, comment below. What is your main issue with people not dreaming of labor? And then if you don't feel comfortable, you can also just private message me on any of the social platforms. I'm on all of them. It's a thought process that I don't understand. Like, I think the idea of not wanting to work forever and having a higher purpose in life is incredible. I get that certain generations, especially for people of color, the idea of not working was not a reality for us because our representation of wealth and generational wealth was not there. We have been deprived of creating wealth for ourselves for centuries. Still to this day, there are measures put in place to make sure that we can accumulate wealth, right? So I get this idea of like letting go of all that wealth, all of that stable wealth, to go pursue your passions and dreams, or to not do anything at all. We need to do better. And I'm saying we because I have a plan, but I could have an even better, even more solidified plan on like when I'm gonna stop working and how I'm gonna start working. I've made it very clear to myself of like putting measures in place, investing where I need to, and I know that I'll make a big investment every single year. But the one thing I haven't clarified for myself exactly is like the exact number of when. And I think making that clear for me will be pretty transformative and also really inspirational. So that is why I'm including we. I have my plan on what I'm doing. It's just that number is scary. It's like, okay, 55, I'm done, I'm quitting, like, we're out of here. That number is very scary because like now you gotta hold yourself accountable to that, but it's very important. So we're gonna hold ourselves accountable and we gotta do better. So in every podcast, I am gonna have a homework section because that's what I do. I'm a career coach and this is a free career coaching session, essentially. So this homework section is basically dedicated to the idea of if you don't dream of labor, here's your homework on how you're gonna get there. So the first question I'd like for you to ask yourself is, when is the ideal and realistic time frame for your retirement? And I say ideal because ideally, of course, you wanna aim high of where you wanna be, but also be realistic. Second question is, what is your ideal and realistic income for when you do retire? Same thing here again, being ideal and realistic. Ideally, you'd like to make this much money, but be realistic about the fact that you will be quitting your job to now live off of your passive income. So what does that passive income look like for you on an annual basis? So the third question is, what passive incomes can you invest in or start today so that when you do get tired of laboring, you can rely on those for your sole income? Hopefully those questions help you figure out some things and create a plan for yourself. As I said before, like, I am not a financial advisor at no, don't even do it. But yeah, definitely do some research, figure out what's realistic for you, because I want you to leave just as bad as you do. So this last section of the podcast is called the Learn Good section in honor of the podcast itself. So the Learn Good section is usually gonna be about something that I discovered this week, or I learned this week, or a thought that just came to mind to me this week that I'm like, kind of an aha moment that will transform my life forever. In today's Learn Good section, I'm actually gonna be talking about the idea of someone copying your work and now how I have like an aha moment around it. So it's interesting because since starting my business, I've definitely felt like I've met other career coaches or other people with businesses, and then a few weeks later, their website transformed, and in many ways, the products or services they were providing were very similar to mine. It was almost as if they engaged with me, and then boom. But there was one time where I was like, this is literally my exact website, but I'm gonna go, I didn't even say anything because I don't have any clear evidence and I will look crazy. Now, I had an aha moment this week that had me like, wait a second, right? Because there's a lot of times where I'll engage with a person and they create content that looks exactly like the content I created 2 days ago. We have to be real about the fact that as a content creator, or when you're working in an environment, when you're at work, when you're in a creative setting, when you're in anything, like, people are planning ideas and content sometimes weeks, months in advance. The second thing, there are only so many topics to speak about. And so many ideas to go around. There's a great chance that that person genuinely created that idea before I did, and I just posted it before they did. We're consuming content on such a alarming basis. Like, from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, we are consuming content. So it's almost naive to believe that what you're creating is also not inspired by somebody else. And when I say what you're, it's like, I had that aha moment, like, maybe there was a time when I created something that was inspired by somebody else. So I think it's really good for us sometimes to like take a step back and be like, okay, that person's work looks very similar to mine, but what is the probability that they more than likely had the same idea that I did and it's not that deep? I think the only time you can accuse somebody of literally copying you is when their work is identical or very similar to what you did. Two, they had exposure to your idea and then they did it. I think those are really the only times that you could be for certain, like, this person copied me. Now, I will say that there are some industries where it's like kind of hard to copy somebody and not get away with it, like physical, tangible industries, like the fashion industry. Anything creative, a lot of times, like when you create something, if somebody copies it, it's pretty obvious because it's a physical object. And again, I think it's really naive to assume that somebody copied you because there's only so many ideas. Like, for us to believe that we are the only person in the world that had this idea is crazy. There are billions of people in the world. So, as I wrap things up here, that was kind of my aha moment for the week. Is like, I'm not gonna drive myself crazy anymore. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Have you ever felt like your work was copied, and after listening to this, are you like, that's kind of true? But my moral to the story is that there's literally no point in driving yourself crazy. And the other thing is that if you are going to publicly call out the people or the person, like, just get ready for the backlash. So just to wrap up this podcast episode, you do not have to dream of labor, and I don't want you to. And if you just want a life where you are literally sipping margaritas on somebody's beach, I want that for you too. As I said earlier in this video, I am a career coach. So if you're at a point in your career where you're like, listen, I don't even know what to do, I don't know what to do with next, I feel so unfulfilled, or I'm done with this stuff, that's literally why I created this business. I want you to feel like you're in complete ownership of your career. You know what you want and you know how you're gonna get there. So definitely schedule time with me by emailing me at info@haylesconsulting.com, or you can use a link down in the description box below. Don't forget to subscribe if you are watching this on YouTube, and when I eventually get onto the podcast platform, subscribe there too. Leave a comment down below if you agree, disagree, have any comments on what I talked about today. And also on the podcast, do not forget to rate it so that I can go up in the algorithm and people can start to see my podcast. Thank you all so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.